All right. Welcome back to the How to Relate podcast. I'm here with Taylor Gilbert. Hello.
Hello. So
And
exciting.
I'm so excited. I feel like it's LinkedIn is such an interesting place because it's like you feel like you're in pods with people and you see their things come up like more frequently. And so you
Right.
came across my feed, but then I started following you and I was like, oh my gosh, I love everything she's posting. I love everything that she's doing. And I was very excited when you agreed to come on the podcast. So I appreciate
Yes.
you on here.
I'm so glad to hear that because in the last 2 years, I've been trying to be more intentional about posting on LinkedIn and also trying to make it more fun. I think LinkedIn is it can be very boring and just like dry, And so there are some people that I follow on LinkedIn and I really appreciate just the energy that they're bringing. So I really try to infuse that with what I share too.
I appreciate that. I do find it to be the most boring platform there is. And also a lot of people start to write what they're seeing everyone else write. So a lot of it feels like it's not
Yes,
therapy when, or like, AI is taking over our jobs, or like
I
whatever it
know.
might be. And it's all the same stuff. And it's like, all right, this isn't original. The same five people have written the same four things. Like you I don't know, do something more creative. And so when I came across your stuff, I was like, yeah, this is fun to read. Like this is intriguing. Or like, yes, I think the same thing. So yeah,
Yes,
you're standing
yes.
out.
I love that. I love that. Tell me, I'm curious. I mean, I know that you're interviewing me, but
Yeah.
what stood out from, yeah, what I was sharing?
Um, so personally, like, I'll say a passion is helping therapists and people in this space like break out of like the like you can only make so much money, or like I even have friends who are in their starting roles and they're like, oh yeah, my starting salary is $58,000 a year with a master's degree, and I'm like, this is awful. It's heartbreaking, and I just remember feeling so down. Like I was not well, basically, when I was coming out of my master's degree in social work and then going into community-based mental health where I was spending money for my own gas and wear and tear on my car and making $38,000 a year. And then the first organization I worked for even gave us a pay cut. So then it was 36.5. And
What
then
year was that?
it was like 2016.
Wow.
And then transitioned to another job and a pay raise looked like, oh my God, $42,000 a year. That's like so much more. Only to realize that my counterparts who were getting their MBAs or going to school for business were basically making double what I was making in with their degrees. And it just felt like that it was this hole that you were never going to climb out of. You're looking at student loans, you're looking at like, what your bills are, and just all the things that felt so overwhelming. And I was like, something needs to be done. So your content, I feel like, spoke to me because I was so in that place,
Hmm.
just feeling down about it.
Yeah, no, totally. That I feel the same way. When in 2018 is when I graduated and I got a job at a community mental health center as well, and it was $40,000. And I remember calling my parents, like, do I have to take this? Is this, I try to negotiate, but this is all that they can offer. And it was the only job offer I had, so I took it. But yeah, I think the financial struggle is so real in a conversation that I feel like we need to get more comfortable with. And what I think is ironic for us as mental health professionals, social workers, is we are so comfortable talking about pretty much everything else, right? We can talk about death, suicide, sexual assault, you know, the list goes on. And yet when it comes to money, it's still it's still a struggle, which, it's not our own fault, but I think there's a lot of societal, family, so many different influences that impact that. So yeah, I want us to get comfortable with this conversation because when we get comfortable with it, then we can advocate for ourselves and empower each other and get the money and the resources that our communities need.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when we're doing well, our communities are going to be doing well. And I
Right.
think that kind of what you're saying, what doesn't get talked about and doesn't get worked on.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and my goal has been to just normalize this conversation. And this all started in 2022, actually. Yeah, 4 years ago. Um, I guess it was end of 2021. My friend had told me about high yield savings accounts, and she's telling me, yeah, there's this savings account that has, 20 to 20 times, 25 times more interest than your regular savings account. I think, everyone is familiar with at your bank, you get 1 cent, per month for your savings account. It's like, okay, thanks. But, she was telling me about this savings account where it's, potentially 20 to 20 times more. And I was so just, my mind was blown. And I've told people about that since, and they're like, is this a scam? But this is, I don't know, that just was one piece of the personal finance puzzle that I just had no idea about. And so I just went down a rabbit hole of reading about personal finance. And I was just so fascinated by one, people sharing online about their money stories, paying off debt. I was really inspired by people who were talking about that they did pay off their debt, that they're retiring early, investing, all of that. And it just, kind of showed me a different future that I could potentially have. My husband and I, in May 2022, I counted up our debt. We had $277,000, and most of that was student loans, but some of it was credit cards, some of it was furniture, loans, whatever. And we kind of just have always felt like, well, we're just going to die with our student loans, which it's okay if you feel that way, but it was nice to see other people just living differently and taking control of their money, and not being, them not feeling that their money was controlling them. I think that's the goal, is you being in control of your money. Um, and so I was just really inspired by people online sharing, and I, started revamping our finances, and I wanted to start sharing with people as other people, were inspiring me. I wanted to start sharing about my debt and normalizing this conversation around debt. And so, yeah, I just started sharing our debt journey, what we're doing, personal finance things I was learning. So that's kind of how, this all started. Um, I guess I didn't really introduce myself. I could do that.
No, you're
Um,
good.
yeah, so I own Social Work to Wealth. It's a career and money education platform for those who do not know who I am. Um, and so I share career and money education resources for social workers. So it kind of like started as me like blogging about our debt, and then it's turned into, I felt like social workers really needed this conversation. I'm a social worker, and I feel like I relate to money in a different way, and I feel like just being a social worker influences the way we see the world, And so I really wanted to kind of infuse that within my content. And then, yeah, I just wanted to start talking to social workers. And I know that we really needed this conversation. I mean, many of us do who aren't social workers, but I felt like I could really relate. So, yeah, I've, just share personal finance resources and career resources for social workers. And also, it's important for me to share like career exposure, I think is also really important. That's what I try to highlight. I think in school, I'm wonder if you can relate. We talked about, maybe there's like 5 career paths for social workers. It's like you do therapy, you work in a hospital, maybe macro, but like that wasn't really talked about very much.
Mhm.
School, social work. And I feel like that was really about it. And so as I don't know, just like throughout the years, I've learned so much about all the things that we can do as social workers. So I really try to highlight, you know, those pathways, working in tech, working with athletes, things like that. So yeah.
Amazing. I have so many questions. 'Cause this is you hit on so many touch points. Okay, so one, what your friend introduces you to the high yield savings account, and then you
Hmm.
went down the rabbit hole of personal finance. What books did you read? Who were you following? Who or what were some of those influences on you that started to change your mindset around money?
Hmm. Um, Delianne, the money coach, I really like. She taught me a lot about investing. I took an investing course from her. Tori Dunlap, I think many people are familiar with her first 100K. She's really great. Janice, what is her last name? Janice Torres. Her podcast is Yo Quiero Dinero. Um, and then I also read the two books I love and I always recommend is Finance for the People by Paco de Leon. I think that's a really great personal finance book. And I appreciate that she, points out the systemic issues and, just is really, I don't know, I feel like she is like talking to us as social workers. I really love it. And then the other book that I really loved was I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit.
Love
You
that.
like that book?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
he's so funny. But yeah, when I recommend that book, I'm like, okay, he's a little harsh. Okay, don't get your feelings hurt.
Yeah.
But this book is a great, great intro to investing. And then I feel like I also was just Instagram, TikTok, just watching videos and YouTube and podcasts. I just was anything I could get my hands on. I was just trying to read and watch. So, but yeah, those are the ones that stand out.
Love those. I will definitely will link to those in the show notes because the only one that well, of the two books you mentioned, I did read I'll Teach You to Be Rich. I didn't read the other one. The other one was
Finance for the People.
Finance for the People. It sounds like, even in the title, it sounds like a social work
Yeah.
point of view in money and finance.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Great. Yeah, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Flashy title. I
Mm-hmm.
loved the direct, here's the exact banking I use, here's the
Yes.
exact, like just the playbook of it to be able to be like, I have a plan with this was just so freeing and amazing that I think I read it back in like 2020 maybe, and it just felt like, oh my gosh, there's a plan. I can do this and I can do it right now
Yes.
from my phone.
Yes.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. So practical. And I think that, seeing people online talk about investing and, people of color and women talking about investing really was inspiring and also I think was so important for me to like feel comfortable because I think there is this it's a, there's a perception but also it's true that, uh personal finance some people will say is very pale, male, and stale. And so seeing people of color and women, talk about this investing piece was really cool.
Mhm. I agree. Yeah, that it's making it feel possible for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also I, really had to. Yeah, I was investing through my workplace plan, but I really had to spend a lot of time, kind of figuring out, okay, what's our debt payoff plan going to be? How are we gonna do this? Because I actually do want to retire early if we can. That would be really awesome. So, yeah, I feel like it's all intertwined and it's been really just an empowering journey for me, and that's the reason why I wanted to start sharing with people because I finally felt like I was in control of my money. Um, and I really just couldn't describe that feeling. I just wanted to bottle it up and give it to everyone. And so I hope that, I can help people get to that place because it really is so impactful.
It sounds like that's what you're doing through your work on the podcast and also in the community. It's like bottling up and giving people that feeling.
Yeah, and trying to make it accessible and um I also think, with the personal finance education piece, I think that's important part of it, but also just in general for us as social workers to feel like it's okay for us to even care about it, right?
Right. Right. Because what were some of your mindset shifts in this? Like and then I'm also kind of curious if you don't mind sharing. You mentioned you talked with your husband about some of these things. What were some of those conversations like? Because I'm imagining that you're going on this journey and I'm imagining you're bringing him with you then, because I think that when we're talking about, I mean, I work with couples. So whenever I think about
Yeah.
like the hot topics that come in, money is always one of them. And it's like a whole intertwining of emotions. And you mentioned like, does your money have power over you or do you have power over it? So there's this power dynamic, where that's interpersonal or just the thing itself. And the how to's of it. What do we do with this? Now that we're diving into some of these shifts, then how do we get in alignment with some of it?
Yeah. I feel very grateful for the partner that I've chosen, and we've been together for 14 years. And yeah, I met him when I was 18 years old, and we've just been, yeah, riding together ever since. And one thing is that we just see things very similarly. And so when I was sharing this all with him, I mean, I was blowing his mind and he was totally on board. There wasn't any issues or any conflict, which is amazing. And I know is not, always the case, but yeah, I just over time I'm learning this about investing. And, he was excited to learn about it. And I think one of the big shifts that we had to make was I was someone who was really, had the FOMO of the credit card points. It's like I had my
Mhm.
credit card. I need to use my credit card because I need to get the points. I need to get the points. But I realized that if I'm not paying it off every month, I'm paying interest, which could be a lot. And so that essentially is a wash. If I'm getting points and I'm paying interest, it's a wash. So one thing I think that was really pivotal for us was, and I feel like when I say it out loud, it sounds very obvious, but I think a lot of people kind of need to make this shift of only spending the money that you have in your bank account and not using the credit card at all. So we went months. We were just like, okay, putting the credit cards over here. We're going to practice only spending the money that we have. And also, I think we realized that we never said no to ourselves. We just anything we wanted, and we weren't like frivolously spending, but we kind of we realized we need to kind of put some restrictions on this. It's if we want to go out to dinner, tonight or, a couple nights this week, maybe we don't go out to dinner next week. It's not like we go out to dinner all this week and all next week. Like we need to say no to ourselves. We need to put a little bit more restrictions so that we can reach our goals of paying off this debt, save, invest, all of that. So, one thing that I'm such a visual learner and just a visual person. And so I found this method. I call it the digital envelope method, but essentially we opened up multiple bank accounts at our credit union. So I have like one bank account for bills. My husband has a spending account. I have my own spending account. Then we have a account for like house and food, miscellaneous things. And so I also loved I'm a lazy budgeter. I don't want it to take I don't want it to be, too time consuming. And so splitting the money out in that way, I can just open up my bank account and look and see how much money do we have left for food or how much money do I have left for my personal, spending and gas and things like that. So that was really helpful because I think typical budgeting methods, you have to track your spending to know how much left you have in your food category, or you're eating out or your gas. So that was really huge. And yeah, we still use that method 4 years later.
I love a method. So I mean, nothing better than a method. And it sounds simple. It doesn't like the way you were talking about this. What I'm not hearing is make a spreadsheet and track every expense and do it that way. It sounds like that this is You have one account, you have like multiple buckets that each of these things are going into, and that way
Yes.
you have an organized visual way of looking at your spending and your saving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think what, the other question that you had asked was about, my mindset in all of this. And I feel like from the beginning in school, I felt okay, like personally, with making money and wanting to make like a decent wage. I don't feel like in terms of that, of me feeling like I deserve money and all of that. I don't feel like I didn't have that. But I think in school, you know, you tell people, oh, I'm going to be a social worker. Oh, you're not going to make any money. Bless your heart,
Yeah.
or professors saying you're not in it for the money, stuff like that. So I think that was really um, just, it was really shocking and I think is really damaging and still is something that people are saying to our current students. I think you had mentioned that that's what your experience was.
Yes, our social work organization in undergrad, they had t-shirts that said, "We're in it for the outcome, not the income." And I remember thinking, okay, great. And kind of like what you're mentioning too, people would, you say, I'm going to school for social work, and people's automatic response was, ooh, you're not going to make any money. And so it was just this expectation that you're doing this because you're a good, caring person, you're empathetic, and you're using your skills in all these ways, and like almost like a pat you on the head and good for you, but like
Hmm.
you're good luck being broke then, like kind of feeling. And I remember thinking, okay, I guess I just have to accept it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right. And
Yeah,
that's,
you
I
just
feel like
keep,
that's the thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you just keep hearing it, and you're just like, well, everyone's saying this, so like no one's saying they're doing great otherwise. So you just have to default and say, all right, it's out of my hands.
Oh
I
my gosh.
We're looking
Yes.
at the theme of mercy. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I think that acceptance, many of us, we kind of feel that way because well, I can't speak for everyone, but I think a couple things that happen is we accept it. And so then when we're going into jobs, we don't negotiate. And so, that's one of the times for you to really be able to increase your salary because when you're in that job, we all know you get 0% raises every year or 2% or 3%, but it's not very much, And so getting a new job, that's really the time to, increase your salary. But if we all feel like, oh, this is just what I deserve, I shouldn't expect more, then we don't negotiate and then we can't raise the ceiling for all of us, because no one's advocating for more. Um, and then, so yeah, I feel like we just accept the status quo in that way, which is not helping us.
It's not, and it's so sad. I actually have some stats here if you want. I mean, you
Let's
probably know
hear it.
some of these. All right, so this is so sad. All right, this is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Um, the median salary for social workers in the US. Do you know this? Do you want to take a guess
Is it
on it?
like 67,000? 61.
61,333. And then if you're in the 10 percentile on the lower end, it's 41,000. And if you're in the 10% on the upper end, it's 99.5. So and then kind of what you mentioned before around like you're looking at different job sectors within social work. So healthcare social workers are 68,000, mental health and substance use is 59, child, family, school also 59, private practice 83. And then there's federal and state that often just pay more. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I feel like one other thing I thought of was just how you were saying, we're told, oh, you're not going to make money, so we just don't expect it, and we're not hearing about people who are making decent wages, and that's one thing that Faith and I like to highlight on our podcast. We do what's called the salary series. We have 2 episodes out so far where we bring on social workers to talk about their salaries specifically. And my intention with that is just to show that there are social workers. We're not all struggling. I think that is a myth. We're not all financially struggling. Many of us are, but there are people who are thriving, and those are the people who I want to come on so that we can be, just inspired and also just see, okay, it's possible potentially. I think a lot of factors influence the income. As a medical social worker in Oregon, I make 107,000, but the same job in the South, maybe 40,000. So it really, just depends on the geographical location, I think, largely too. But I think, yeah, this perception that we're all struggling financially is just not the case. I started collecting some salaries on my blog 2 years ago. I don't know why. I just was like, I'm curious what other people are making, and I put out
Yeah.
this Google form. I have about like 1,600 salaries on there, um, and there are some people who are making some good money, and it's really inspiring to see. It's more than I expected. It's not enough. There are still social workers making 40, $50,000, which is absolutely just
Yeah.
exploitative, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a huge range, and one thing that I feel like, even with the BLS, estimations and stuff, it's like social work is so diverse. There's so many things we can do. There's social workers that are working in tech. You can work in private practice. You can work in a corporate agency. We had a social worker on our podcast who works for IPSY. Have you heard of that?
No. Wait,
It-
yes, but I don't really know what it
It's
is.
like a beauty subscription service. So you
Yeah.
get like a box of, like beauty products. So he works, his name's Peter. I would encourage people to check it out if that sounds interesting. But anyways, he works in HR at a beauty subscription company. And his social work skills come in handy working in HR. In this, so I feel like there are so many things that we can do, so many industries that we can work in. And so I think it's hard to really like make this like blanket statement of like, oh, all social workers are just not making good money, but also hard to really nail down what are we actually making because we're just everywhere, you know? So,
That's also true because I think when we think of social work jobs, we think of the classic kind of the ones that we just mentioned, right? Like healthcare, child and family, school, private practice therapy, or like community-based health therapy, and that
yes,
those roles kind of vary and also have a broad context to it. Um, are you part of the therapist in tech Slack group?
I'm not. Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. I need to send you the form to this so that you can get on it. So it's
Interesting.
basically this Slack group that was created. It's like a nonprofit, but people are constantly posting about jobs in tech for therapists to be in, and it is fascinating. So I've been in it for a few years now, met some really great and cool people through it. So, and it has like a variety of people. So it has people who are therapists and clinicians, but also people who work in other tech spaces and like kind of maybe more like an operations role or director role. And people are talking about all these open positions that people could possibly be doing. And like, whether that's like, hey, this AI mental health company is looking for people to consult on their new platform or whatever, or quality assurance for notes at, whatever, like Alma or Headway or one of those other companies. Like, but it's like that there are these places where I'm looking at the salaries and I'm like, yes, like that looks great over there.
Right.
It's kind of interesting because it feels like it's a little tangential to the traditional social work
Mhm.
space.
Mhm.
But I'm also like, yeah, it makes sense because we are systemic thinkers. We have all these touch points. Like we have like the boots on the ground touch points with people.
Yes.
We're having like real time conversations with clients and stakeholders and community members and just referral resources. It's like we have all this data just as like one person talking to so many people that we would be valuable in a lot of these spaces and areas in these companies.
Yeah, yeah. The couple tech social workers that I've talked to, they work in trust and safety,
Yeah.
which is was so fascinating. I just learned about that last year. But one of them, he works at Spotify and he works in the policy department and, creating policies and managing policies to keep users safe. When I heard that, it's like, oh, duh, but that's just not really, it's just not really like a path that I would have ever thought of. And it's really cool. He had an intern for the first time or last year. So he's really trying to, bring more social workers in this space. And so that was really cool of him.
Love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like how you're kind of mentioning too, how do we start to break it? And I think that it is going like, hey, people who are interns or in school, come see what it's like over here. Like there are opportunities that are outside of the norms and what your professors are probably talking about in class.
Yeah. And I think just in terms of our culture as social workers, surprisingly, I've gotten some negativity from other social workers about the things that I talk about.
I'm sure, Taylor, tell me more.
I think, yeah, a lot of it came from a couple months ago. Maybe it was like 2 months ago. We did a salary series episode with a therapist who makes 224,000, and she, I think a majority of her income is through therapy, but she also is a content creator and does workshops and has sponsorships, things like that kind of round out that 224 number. But a lot of the negativity came from me sharing about that and people telling me that if I care about money, then I shouldn't have been a social worker, or, making this much money is against the code of ethics. And even just, kind of attacking my brand, my like business name, Social Work to Wealth, and saying that, it's insensitive to the people we work with and stuff like that.
Why am I this
Brittany's
surprised?
Brittany's mouth is open.
Is open. At the same time, I'm like, why am I this surprised? I shouldn't be. If you're ever, first off, if you're a clinician and you're in a Facebook group in your city, you know what this is like to
Yeah.
kind of have these kinds of conversations. But I think what's kind of sad, because what I hear is maybe flavors of jealousy or flavors of like, like how, but to say that it's unethical for us to make money, it's like, where is that coming from? Like where in this code of ethics does it say that there is a cap on our salaries? Or where does it say that you have to be the one that throws yourself on the fire to light the world for everybody else? It's
Right.
like we don't like that we don't have to be stressed about every aspect of our life in finances in our well-being to do good work with people. Like I think that the more money that we make, and I mean I know a fair amount of social workers and we're pretty great, so I feel like the more the more that we make, the more that we're also able to do better for ourselves and our communities and our clients.
Completely agree. I feel like that's like my mission is just for us to have more money so that we can show up in the way that we want to and change the world.
Right,
That's
right.
simple. I mean, it's I say it sounds simple, but it's really not. Um, yeah, I don't know. One interesting thing, we had one of our episodes we talked about AI and ethics, and that's one of our continuing education episodes if anyone's interested. But we had the guy, his name is Dr. Reamer, Dr. Frederick Reamer, and he led the task force of the, social workers who wrote the Code of Ethics. And so he's a big wig, he's the guy who like, yeah. So we,
So
Faith and I emailed him, so he has some credibility.
I was gonna say, so what did he have to say about these people going like it's unethical for you to make money?
I literally emailed him and was just like, hey, I'm getting some negativity about what we're talking about. And ultimately he's like, it's not against the code of ethics. He said, it's your motivation, Um, TLDR is just, are you money motivated? Are you only in this? Are you only in this for the money? And you're trying to make as much money as you can, exploiting people, things like that, and not really caring about the well-being of the people that you're working with. That's not us, right? Like we are here to change the world, and we also like want to make a livable wage, a good wage, more than a livable wage. Um, so I think he was really just trying to hone in on like what is your intention in being in social work. And he just kind of ended it with, that's this is an important conversation for us as a field, and that financial wellness is important for us to to be sustainable, to, sustain ourselves in this work. So he totally got it. And I think one person, who messaged me was talking about how, building this, she said, building this much wealth and revenue, something like that. So building this much wealth and revenue is against the code of ethics. And I think for me reading that, it felt just a little less informed, because making a ton of money doesn't mean you're wealthy, right? It's like wealth is about your net worth and your assets minus your liabilities, to get technical. But, you can make $900,000, but your expenses still be $1 million, that doesn't mean you're wealthy, making a lot of money. There are people who are working in tech who are making $300,000, it's as social workers. I think it's how you obtain the money, and there are also ways to build wealth, investing, things like that. She was saying that she felt like liberatory practice shares that building wealth is typically impacts, or, individuals who are vulnerable or something like that, which I can understand, depending on what you're investing in. But I think there's a lot of ways for us to build wealth in a way that is aligned with our values. And so I think that is just a conversation that I need to continue to have and dive into a little bit more with people. But when I say wealthy, it's not trying to become a billionaire, it's having enough money to pay off your debt, have enough money to care for your family, give money away to your family, and donate to the causes that you care about. Leave a toxic relationship, whether it's a personal relationship or with your employer, take time off, fund political campaigns, grassroots campaigns, organizations, all of that. So yeah, and I also see, wealth, like when I'm talking about it, it's largely about money, but it's just also us being like holistically wealthy and healthy, and feeling well. It's hard for us to feel well in the society that we're living in, and especially when we're financially struggling. Like, there is research that financial stress impacts you physically, mentally, and that in turn affects our clients. And so how is me, ignoring or not caring about my financial wellness, and just accepting this status quo, and shaming other people about wanting money, that's not a way that we can like build ethical practice. Requires us to be healthy. So that's what I see as being as ethical social work, not caring about money. I don't think that is greedy or immoral.
Well, it's interesting because if someone really wanted to go into a profession and make money, they would have gone into finance. Like, so, so
No,
just
seriously.
right off the bat, it's kind of like the conversation almost starts on shaky ground, like that I'm imagining that you're having with this person who's like, this is unethical. Because you're like, well, no, it's not. And then the other part is like, exactly to what you're saying, that when we're taking care of our well-being and finances is a part of well-being, that we're able to do good work. And I think that good people, when they have money and resources, do good things.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
like to think of like three different types of currencies. I talk about this with clients sometimes. I'm like, what are your three currencies? I'm like, they're money, energy, and time. So
Mm.
if you have these three currencies, and what are you spending them on? And I'm like,
Ooh.
is it, and which ones are you stressed about? Which ones do you feel like you have an abundance of? Which ones do you feel like you don't have an abundance of? Like, it's kind of like, where does each one get allocated? Where do they go? Like, so when I think about the three kinds of energies, I'm like, yeah, like you want to feel well in each of those. And money is definitely part of it.
Interesting. I really like that. Money, time, and what was the other thing?
Energy.
And energy.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think many of us can relate. It's interesting that this is still such a, taboo conversation for all of us because we have seen directly the impact, the effects of lack of money, in our with our clients, maybe people in our family, maybe personally, and how that can really affect your stress levels, and I think outwardly we can identify, we also I feel like in school we're always talking about social economic status. But when we're talking about us as a profession and us as social workers, it's just like, oh, that doesn't matter. I'm here to martyr myself
Yeah.
for my clients, and I think it's really still very pervasive in
Right.
our field for us to like feel like we have to um not care about our well-being to, I don't know, to do good work or something. I just don't get it.
I know. I know. It's so confusing because it's like a puzzle. And also, this profession attracts, it's very female dominated. It's
Yes.
rather diverse in terms of like color and ethnicity. Like because you're getting people who are in this
Yes.
for social justice and understand some of the
Hmm.
socioeconomic struggles that people have had and all the systemic factors. Like so when you people are talking about like what it means, I'm like we are part of this. Like our
Yes.
like sure we might be this like subset of population in terms of like we're talking like social workers and then the subsets and then
Hmm.
however deep down that it goes, but it matters. Like every percentage of the population makes a whole. So it's like we do
Hmm.
have to look at us as a part of those systemic factors of well-being in society.
Yeah, like we also live in this society, and just because we have a profession, we're in a profession that really aligns with our values and we're doing work that really aligns with our values, we have to also, carry the fact that bottom line, we have to trade our labor for money. That's it.
Right.
So we have to care about that because we need money to live in this society. But for some reason, we just kind of forget that the financial wellness piece is so important, and then we're shaming other people. And my co-host Faith had mentioned, we did an episode about, is building wealth as a social worker against the code of ethics. We haven't put it out yet, but I'm really excited to share that because of all of these comments. And Faith and I were like, okay, we need to address this because this
I
is
wait.
this is what we mean, and this is why it's important, right? There's data that shows that this is important for our physical well-being, and to show up in the way you want to, you need to have financial wellness. Um, but Faith had mentioned that it's kind of a weird conversation that we're having because it's like, oh, we want social work to be more diverse. And yet she's like, okay, so our field becomes more diverse, more people of color, maybe, like age, you know, across the
Mhm.
spectrum with age, all of that. But then you're saying, let's not pay you. No, you wanting money is against the code of ethics. Like, let's just keep the marginalized helping the marginalized.
Great.
That does not sound, that doesn't sound right at all. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, exactly. That line has
Yeah.
a punch to it, what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, that we don't want to keep the marginalized to supporting the marginalized. Like that is not how this is going to work.
That's not how this should be. No, no. And I
Mhm.
feel like if you point it out like that, it's like, oh no. But there's also this reality that many in our field are women, and this is seen as care work, and it's undervalued, and all of that. And so I think that's what we're fighting against. But I'm really trying to this kind of culture within social work, and I want to empower social workers to feel like it's okay for you to want this. It's okay for you to want to make more money. to talk about this, to want to build wealth for you and your family. And so just kind of like normalizing that and also empowering people to, yeah, advocate for your salary when you get a new job, um, things like that, because we kind of need to change that within. I feel like right now I'm really fighting the culture within social work, and I haven't been able to kind of like break out of that to start advocating completely for us because I'm still just like fighting, I'm still fighting us to, kind of get to where I want us to be and us all collectively feeling okay with this mission, and I just want us all to be able to support each other if in like us being financially well, however it works for you. It might look different for you, it might look different for me, I don't want
Yeah.
people telling other people, "Oh, if you don't take insurance, then you're not a social." Those conversations where it's like, "Oh, it's not ethical to not
Yeah.
take insurance." Everyone needs to figure out what works for them and we all need to support each other to get there. Period.
Right.
So we can fight those other people.
Yeah. Right. We shouldn't be fighting amongst ourselves about why we should make money. It seems so silly when you put it that, like, when you say that, because even when you're saying, like, I feel like I'm trying to fight our own culture, you're doing so much work. Like, yeah, to try and get everyone, like, to bring them along. Here's a question for you. Do you think, all right, so I was talking with a friend the other day who works in an addiction treatment space. And the starting salary there is like 58.6, something like that.
Hmm.
Um,
Yikes.
and I can't, like, yeah. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are. Is it that because we're so bought into the narratives that therapists or people who are social workers or in this space don't make money, that then companies and organizations see it as like, well, then that's what we pay them because, like, if you undervalue yourself,
Mhm.
then organizations are going to undervalue you? Or is it that it's like truly that this is a fee for service, and because we work with insurance or we work with whoever, the payers aren't going to pay that much for the service, and therefore this is only what we can pay you? Like, I'm kind of wondering, like, do you, like, which one is it, if that makes sense?
Mhm.
Like, and
Yeah.
what your thoughts are around that.
Yeah. I know it's tough because there are jobs where it's like, this is what we can offer you, 56,000, whatever, and you try to negotiate and you can't, and you're stuck needing a job. You need the job and you just take it. So I definitely, don't want to discount that there are just unfortunately low paying jobs regardless of what we do. I think it can be both, but I also feel like, systemically there is this devaluation of the work that we do and the people that we work with. And so the, payers of a lot of the work that we do just don't give enough. I know that people have talked about just the insurance reimbursement rates and just how low they are, and it's just seriously ridiculous. And then there's also the um I can't remember what it's called, but you can't tell another therapist like how much you're getting, from
Yeah.
insurance. So it's like there's this piece of from the people who are paying, who are trying to keep us, underpaid, I think. And one of my friends, she had a lactation consultant come to her house, and the consultant was a social worker, and she was um consulted through the hospital, and she got paid, I believe it was 2,000 for about a 3-hour visit from insurance. Yeah. So it's like there are instances like that in the healthcare, mental health realm where, oh, okay, so the insurance, so you want to pay that. You're okay with paying that much for this service, but for some reason you can't pay us for seriously carrying this country on our backs. you know? So I feel like a lot of it is systemically, there's just not enough money coming down. And then when there's potentially an opportunity for us to maybe advocate, then we also just don't do it. But we can't advocate for more money if there isn't any money to advocate
Right.
for. We can't get more money if there isn't more money. So yeah, it's really hard.
That's a good point. How do you recommend people negotiate their salaries?
Mm, yeah. I feel like it depends on um okay, not depends. One thing I like to say is I think sometimes people, hiring managers or whatever will call you on the phone. And so I like to recommend people having a little just script in your phone, like on your notes app or something, and just prepare, saying something like, thank you so much for this salary. I'm really excited. Based on my years of experience and, market research, da 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 da, I was expecting this salary and shoot for the shoot for the stars, seriously. I was expecting this salary. I'm wondering if there's a way that, we can work towards getting it closer to that, or there's some, wiggle room in the current salary. Um, I think sometimes people are able to get more money in the salary, but maybe you can ask for sign-on bonus, more PTO, maybe them paying for, you getting like a continuing education stipend. Do they offer supervision, free supervision? I've seen some organizations offer student loan help, which is really cool. So I think, just not forgetting that even if you can't negotiate your salary, maybe there's some other things that you can negotiate, but I
Mm.
feel like you don't really need to say that much. And I'm sure you can find a script online. It's essentially just, thank you. I'm so excited. Based on my experience, this is what I was expecting. Can we talk about ways to get it a little bit closer to that? It doesn't really need to be more than that. But I do recommend people having your script word for word in your notes app, because when they call you, you're gonna be nervous. you
Sure.
know. And so it's kind of nice to just have it there. You could just read, and you can do it. I know it's so stressful, but just a little bit of discomfort, and then no one's no one's ever died from trying to negotiate their salary. I don't think, anyways.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah. That we know of. Maybe some AI organization. No, I'm kidding. But no, I agree with you that it's kind of about, I think, kind of what you're saying too, is like getting into the uncomfortable conversations and having them more often. Um,
hmm
I kind of make the analogy of like, all right, if this was someone who was working in corporate, would they take this? Like, or
mm
if this was another sector, sometimes it's helpful, at least for me, to think outside of myself, or like outside of I'm like, okay, well, what would they do?
Totally.
Yeah, how
Or
would this
or
go
what
for
would
them?
you tell your friend? It's like, hey,
Right.
should I negotiate the salary? You can be like, actually, no. No, don't advocate for yourself.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't do that. No, I know, right? It's so true. It's so, so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can people find your stuff, your community, all of it?
Yeah. LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Taylor Gilbert. And also my website is socialworktowealth.com. I'm also social work to wealth on, Instagram, TikTok, all the places. So my podcast, Social Work to Wealth. So yeah.
Love it. Yeah, you're doing such great work, and I appreciate all your content. It's
Thank you.
wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for having
fighting.
me.
Of course. Thanks for fighting the good fight.
I know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little tough. Sometimes it's a little tough, but overall, I think we can all understand when, we believe in something so much. It's just kind of like, that's what I was meant to do, and you aren't going to phase me. So I'm going to keep going.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
I'm here supporting you. So, in
Thank
any way we
you.
can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. And we'll have those links in the show notes. So until next time, everyone, stay connected and drink Larry's coffee. Stay caffeinated too. All right.